Hi, we're group four. Our component of fitness is muscular strength and endurance, and today we will be going over the partial curl up test.
So like Morgan said, our muscular strength and endurance are components of fitness. So muscular strength is the maximum amount of force a muscle group can exert at a time. Muscular strength cannot be repeated since the maximum amount of force, you can't repeat maximal force. An example of this would be like a 1 rep max squat. Muscular endurance differs in that it's the ability to hold and repeat a contraction over an extended period of time. So muscular endurance is going to be submaximal force that you can repeat. So an example would be our partial curl up test because you're going to repeat partial curl ups throughout the test. Next, we're going to give you guys an overview of what we're going to be teaching today in our presentation.
Okay, in this presentation, we will be talking about the partial curl-up assessment. We will also have a demonstration videos, and we will talk about the ideal equipment that you should be provided and the modified equipment for at home. We will go over warm-up and cool-down exercises, and we'll talk about the norms. And lastly, we will talk about developmental activities that will help you measure your abdominal muscles. Next up, we will talk about the equipment for the test.
So here are a few examples of recommended equipment. First, in ideal equipment, we have one flat, clean, and cushioned seat.
Our recommended modifications for this would be 3 bath towels stacked on top of each other. This piece of equipment is mostly going to be used for comfort for the test.
Next, we have the recording sheet.
So our modification for this should just be like a simple notebook paper or printer paper if you don't have like a proper recording sheet. And you can always, with like a notebook paper, printer paper, you can always put like the outline and stuff and make it a recording sheet.
Next, we have a pencil for recording purposes.
For modifications for this, there's not really any modifications other than just a writing utensil. You can use anything from a pen, pencil, colored pencil, anything you can use to draw.
And then next, we have the metronome, which is also used for the 40 beats per minute.
Our modification for this is just any 40 beat per minute rhythm. You can go on Google and you can get a 40 beat per minute rhythm off of Google, which can help aid in the test.
And then next, we have the handheld count of the amount of curl-ups you do.
So our modification for this could be like a simple popsicle sticks or toothpicks that you can keep track of repetitions. So like if you have a partner that's going to help you do this test, for every rep, they can throw a popsicle stick to a certain side. You guys can keep track of it easily like that.
And then next, we have 2 pieces of tape placed 12 centimeters away from each other.
Our modification for this was to use cones or any object that can be placed apart from each other 12 centimeters. You could use cones. You could use pretty much anything, just as long as you have like a marked distance. So next we're going to actually talk about how we can perform this partial curl up.
So the partial curl up isn't really too hard to perform or set up. So basically you need the 2 pieces of tape or cones or whatever you have, like they were talking about, set up on the floor. For ages 45 and under, you're going to want these 2 pieces of tape 12 centimeters apart. 45 and older, pieces of tape are 8 inches apart. So basically with the tape on the floor, you're going to go ahead and lay on your back with your knees bent up at about 140-degree angle. You're going to want to set your fingertips at the piece of tape that's closest to you. When the metronome starts at the 40 beats per minute, all you're going to do is slide your fingertips across the floor to the distal piece of tape and then return back to the starting position. So by beat 1 of the metronome, your fingers should be at the distal piece of tape. By beat 2, you should be back at starting position. The test is concluded when you either perform 75 curl-ups or you can no longer keep up with the beat of the metronome. So next we have a demonstration for you guys of how the partial curl-up should be performed correctly.
All right, this is just a little video, and then I will walk us through it. So to begin, there's the 2 pieces of tape. Here I used athletic tape, but you can kind of use painter's tape or masking tape or the modification with like the cones or anything else just to kind of have that separation. You can see here that these are 12 centimeters apart. This is the recommended distance for individuals under 45. 45 and over, the tape's actually going to be closer together at about 8 centimeters. Next, you want to find a metronome. Here is the modification version. I just looked up a metronome on Google, and you can kind of move the metronome to whatever beat per minute you would like. For this test, it is 40 beats per minute. Right here, you can see that you need to lay down on the ground, your knees at a 140-degree angle, and your fingertips on the tape closest to your head. So next, you're going to start the metronome, and you're going to move from the front piece of tape to the next piece of tape on every count. So on 1, you would go forward, and then on 2, you would go back to your starting position, and then just continue until you hit 75, or you can no longer keep up with the metronome. All right.
So for warming up for the partial curl up test, the first thing we need to do is we need to raise your body temperature. So break a little sweat. So how we're going to do this is we're going to perform a total body movement, such as 15 jumping jacks. Jumping jacks are just a really easy, basic exercise that almost anybody can perform. Next, after that, we're going to use a slow stretch that's going to prep the abdomens for use. What we decided on was an inchworm for 5 reps. It's going to be slow and controlled. This is not going to be for time. And then lastly, we're going to hold a contraction in the abs to prep the back to stabilize during this test. We're going to use a 15 to 30 second plank, depending on how much you can hold and how good a shape you're in. And then between exercises, we recommend about 30 to 45 seconds. This is a warm-up, so it's not going to be a workout, but it should also get you prepped and ready for the test. And then below in the pictures, you can see some diagrams, some pictures that will demonstrate how you can do these. Next, we're going to talk about the warm-up demonstration. So we're going to have Danielle actually walk us through it and do it.
So this is a video for the warm-up that Zach was talking about. So to start, just jumping jacks again, getting that heart rate up, getting you just blood pumping a little bit, ready to go. You never want to do anything when you're totally cool because you higher your chance for a risk of injury. So just about 15 jumping jacks to get warmed up. Again, rest as needed. If you don't need a rest, great. If you need a rest, take a rest. It's just a warm up. It's not competition. It's just for you. So this is the next one, which is the inchworm. So again, just walk it out to a plank. If you need to hold it for a second, that's totally fine. Walk it back up, stand up, and then we're just going to repeat it. So we're going to do 5 sets here. So the next move that we're going to be doing for the warm-up is that plank hold when we're done. So to get into this, you're just going to get down on your hands and your knees, put your forearms down, step your feet back, try to just be as flat as possible, head neutral, try not to let your head hang down. This is just getting our ab muscles fired up, getting us warmed up a little bit more. The partial curl up test is really only targeting your abdominal muscles, so it's important that we get those warmed up a little bit before we perform the test. Like Zach said, anywhere from 15 to 30 seconds. When you start to feel it burn a little bit, great, that means you're fired up, ready to go. We just did about 25 seconds in this video. So next we're going to talk about the normative values for the partial curl up.
So for normative values, it's important to know the norms and know the percentiles, so you can understand how you measure up against, a vast majority of people. So we're going to cover the 20 to 29-year-olds, since that's pretty much the age group that our class is going to be in. So for the 90 percentile or well above average, 75 reps for men or 70 reps for women is going to be well above average. So like Danielle said before, 75 reps or until you get tired is going to be the highest amount you should really go for. Above average for men is going to be 56, women is going to be 45, average is going to be 31, women's going to be 32. Below average, it's going to be 24 reps for men. For women, it's going to be 21. And then well below average is going to be 13 reps for men and then 12 for women. And then obviously, as you get older, the reps do tend to come down a bit. So next, we're going to talk about why our abdominal muscles are important. So the abdominal muscles are important for many reasons. They have tons of functions. So the first is to hold the body stable. Next is to hold the body upright into a good posture. So if you have weak abdominal muscles, your posture is generally going to be poor. It's also going to support the trunk of your body. It's going to reduce lower back pain, because if you have strong abs, the back is a stabilizer for the abs. So weak back and weak abs just means more back pain. And then it also holds your organs into place, since it's such a big, large group of muscles. It holds everything into place. So next we're going to talk about the pros of the partial curl-up test. So the first pro that we have is it improves overall health. So what experts say is that strengthening your abdominal muscles can improve digestion, energy, vitality through increased blood flow and oxygen delivery. And it can also increase the removal of toxins. So the strength of your abs muscles has a lot to do with the health of your spine. Like we said, the abs can help stabilize the back and the back helps stabilize the abs. They kind of work in conjunction to each other. The next pro is improves muscular endurance. So doing, repetitions of a curl up, it's going to basically increase your work capacity, how much you can do. It can also help, improve your posture throughout the day. And the more in shape you are, then the more you can tolerate through the day. So it's not just necessarily for athletic performance, it can be for everyday activities. And lastly, it can improve muscular strength. So curl-ups are an effective way to strengthen the muscle of your abdominans, specifically the rectus abdominis. And so obviously our curl-up test is mostly muscular endurance based, but it can improve strength. Next, we're going to talk about the cons of the partial curl-up test.
Okay, the first con of the partial curl-up test is that a metronome may not always be available, or the modified version of the metronome. Without it, it's difficult to control the amount of the curl-ups as you go along. The second con is performing a curl-up with your feet being held. That way it involves your hip flexor muscles, and we are measuring your abdominal strength. And the last one is bad posture. If bad posture is performed during the test, it messes up your comparison to the norms. Next, we're going to talk about the populations in which the test should be performed.
All right, so who can perform the partial curl-up? This exercise is really appropriate for anyone that has a healthy or is free of any injuries pertaining to their spine or abdomen. There's not really an age limit, as long as they can understand the directions and do it without being in pain or having any tightness, they're totally fine.
The partial curl-up test is not appropriate or recommended for any person with unfortunate spinal or abdominal injuries. Participating in the test with a pre-existing injury can potentially worsen the condition of the individuals.
So next, we're going to talk about our developmental activities we have for this test.
So for our developmental activities, we kind of did one that was more serious, like here's something you can really sit down and do to strengthen your core. And we did another one that was just kind of fun. So the one that's more serious and really you can get down and gritty with is going to be leg raises. So that's just your traditional laying on my back. I'm doing leg raises. We also provided a modification for that, which is just simply doing butt ups instead of the full leg raise to kind of take a little bit of pressure off that tailbone for you. And then our more fun one that we're doing is the Cupid Shuffle. So I'm sure everyone kind of knows how that song goes. 4 steps to the right, 4 steps to the left, 4 kicks and turn. So we will show you in just a minute a video of that. But basically you're up in a high plank and you're just going to be walking around to the Cupid Shuffle. To modify that one, you can simply do it with your knees down. Or if for some reason, again, you have some sort of pre-existing condition such as the spine or the abdominal injury, you can always just do the Cupid Shuffle standing up. It's still going to be a good workout for you. You're still going to have a good time. So at the end of the day, if you're still going to work out in, everything's okay. Next, we're going to talk about how to perform the developmental activity for like the exact steps. So for the leg lifts, you're simply going to, we'll show this in the video too, but get down on your back. Hands are going to go out to the side. You want to kind of push your navel down to the floor. So we want to have our lower back as close to the floor as possible. You don't want to have any sort of arch in your back. For this test, we simply just did 10 reps and then take a rest. Ideally, you want to do that probably about 3 times so you get 30 in total. Cupid Shuffle, as I said, in the high plank, 4 steps, 4 steps. For the kick, you're just going to lift in the plank, lift your leg up to the back, and then just rotate 45 degrees. So for the video, or I'm sorry, the equipment that you need for the developmental activity.
The equipment needed for the developmental activity, you can have a mat if you desire. This is not required. You can just do it on the ground or anywhere really. The mat is just more of a comfort thing if you want it for like your elbows or for your back. For modification, you can use towels if you're in a dorm room or just like a hard ground. You can use about like 2 or 3 towels and stack those up and they'll be nice and comfy for your back and your forearms. Also, you will need a device to play the music on. Like Danielle said, we're doing the Cupid Shuffle plank. So you kind of need to have that song to be able to follow along with that activity. A device could be a phone, an iPod, laptop, any computer, really anything that you can play music on. Finally, you just need space to move around. So the Cupid Shuffle gets a little crazy. You definitely need space to move around. If you're in a cramped dorm room or a small room in general, you can just take the activity right outside and do it in the grass or do it on a yoga mat out there. Yeah, just space to be able to move around and get your activity in. Next, we have a video demonstrating the developmental activity. And Danielle is going to explain that.
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to show in this video is just how to perform the leg raises. So again, you don't need a mat, you don't need towels. Obviously, that's going to make it much more comfortable for you, but there is a way to perform these things without. So lay down on your back. Again, we want to push that belly button down to the floor. We want to maintain good posture, so we're working the right muscles and we're not compensating for the bad posture with another muscle. So simply just going to do 10 of those leg raises up and down. You want to come down to about 2 inches off the floor and get up to about 90-degree angle. So again, we're doing 10 of them. So this is kind of a modification that you can do for the leg lifts. If for some reason you have, like, let's say bruised tailbone, just as an example, that lowering and lifting right on the tailbone might be uncomfortable for you. Again, a mat or a towel is really going to help that. But if those aren't available for you, you could always perform butt ups, but that is also going to target those same muscles. So the next one we have is Cupid Shuffle. So I have my phone for my equipment. I'm just going to cue up the music. So this one, again, up in that high plank, if you need to, put your knees down. If you can't perform this for some reason, just get up and do it on your feet. It's totally fun, totally fine. So again, up in that high plank, it's going to be 4 steps to the right, 4 steps to the left. For the now kicks, you're going to just kick that leg up a little bit behind you And then for walking by yourself, you're just gonna turn a little bit and then go the other way. So we're gonna go ahead and play the video and the music for you so you can kind of get an idea of how it looks.
All right, there we go.
Okay, so that's just kind of a fun way that you can target the ab muscles other than a traditional laying down and doing crunches or something like that. So now we're gonna move on to a repetition of the partial curl-up test.
So at this point, one should repeat the partial curl-up test. This includes performing the developmental activities demonstrated by Danielle. Wonderful job. With the music involved, of course. And then next would be going through the curl-up test itself. On your back, knees at 140 degrees, starting the metronome and completing 75 curl-ups or until you are off beat. And then at the end, again, you would compare your results to your first run on the recording sheets. And then back to the repetition of the normative values.
Yeah, so as Zach explained the first time, you want to compare these to your results after you finish the test. We are in the 20 to 29 age range, and as as you get older, the amount goes down, and well above average is at 75 for men and 70 for women, and so forth, and moving on. Next, we will discuss our cool down.
All right, so the cool down video, we went ahead and did just some basic stretches for you. So in this video, I'm gonna perform just some heel to the butt, some knee to chest stretches, some ankle cradles. I also went ahead and just did some like up dog to down dog, a couple of things that are really gonna target those abdominal muscles. I did some pec stretches. For those, you're gonna lay on the floor. You want your elbows out to have a 90-degree angle, and you're just gonna cross over. You should feel it all throughout the top pec and side of your abs. I also went ahead and just put together like a little yoga flow for you guys. And as we go through this, I kind of did the hardest version just so that if people are more advanced and more flexible, they have a harder version to follow. And as we go through the video, I'll give you guys modifications that you can do. You can take out places, put your knees down, stuff like that to make it fit for all variations of flexibility. So we can go ahead and play the video. So again, just starting with some basic heel to butt, hold it for as long as feels comfortable for you. The cool down at the end of the day is for you. So do whatever feels good for you. The more you stretch out those muscles after a workout, the less sore you're gonna be the next day, breaking up that lactic acid a little bit. So this is the heel to butt stretch. Make sure you're doing equal numbers on both sides. So here I transitioned into the knee to chest. So make sure that support leg is staying straight for you. This is good balance test too. Try not to fall over. So just lifting that knee up and pulling it as close to your chest as you can for what feels comfortable. Stretches shouldn't ever hurt you. They could kind of, you guys all know like a good stretch, what it feels like, but it shouldn't ever be causing you like real pain. So this is the ankle cradle. For the ankle cradle, you want to grab your ankle and kind of be pushing down a little bit on your knee like how I just did. So you should feel the stretch kind of in the back of the leg that's lifted. Again, same reps on both sides. Another good balance check. So here we're just going to go into basic down dog stretch to up dog stretch. So that up dog or seal pose, you might know it as, is going to really target those core muscles. Real good to stretch them out after we just did all that core work. So just a couple down dog, up dog. Also starting to bring down that heart rate after that great Cupid shuffle that we did. And for a cool down, I mean, I would always do, again, same amount of reps on each side, but do as many as feels good to you. Like I only did a couple in this, but if it's feeling really good to you and you want to do a bunch, by all means, keep going. A cool down, in my opinion, is really for you. So do what you need to do and what your body feels it needs. So just some cat cows here, again, kind of targeting those core muscles, getting them stretched out after all the ab work that we just did. So here is yoga pose. So ninja, and then if, Morgan, you want to pause it for a second, please? If you can't do that hip flexor stretch that I did, that's totally fine. Take it out. That's just if you're advanced and you're flexible and you're feeling like you need a little extra stretch, out of that ninja pose, you can bring that knee down to get a little bit of hip flexor action in there. If not, just do ninja, go right into the high lunge and then twist open. If that high lunge is uncomfortable for you, go ahead and put that back knee down. That's totally fine. Again, a stretch should never be hurting you. It should feel good and it should stretch out your muscles, but you don't want it to inflict any pain. So if you can't do that hip flexor stretch, take it out. Just do the ninja, switch to a high lunge. If you need to put the knee down in the high lunge, great. Twist open. After this, I'm going to push back into a triangle pose. If you need to just keep your knee down and straighten that front leg instead as a modification, that's totally fine too. Do what your body needs you to do. So there in that triangle, if you want to just keep that knee down and straighten that front leg. Switch over to the other side. Again, if you're not flexible enough, take that hip flexor stretch out. It's no big deal. This is the more advanced version. You can keep the knee down as you twist open, and you can keep the knee down for the stretch back if that's what your body needs. So we're just going to do a couple on each side here to get everything all stretched out. Next thing we're going to do is that pectoral stretch that I was talking about. So as you can see, my arms are kind of out at that 90-degree angle. You're just going to cross over that one leg. So the key here is to try and keep both shoulders pushed down on the ground. You don't want to lift up the one that's going to want to lift because you're twisting. So try and push both shoulders back into the ground to get that good stretch. A couple on each side, as many that you feel that you need. Just try and again, keep the same numbers on both sides so we're staying even. And at the end here, I just went ahead and held that up dog or seal stretch. Again, we really just targeted our core muscles, so it's important we get those stretched out. I only held this for a couple of seconds, but I think this stretch feels great, especially after you work out your core. Go ahead and feel the stretch for, or hold the stretch for as long as you need, as long as what's going to make you feel good. And then just went and did a child's pose. Try and make sure that back it's all realigned. As we talked about, some abdominal exercises that we do can be pretty hard on the back and the spine, especially if you have any sort of pre-existing conditions or just have some sort of backaches that bother you sometimes. Child's pose is a really good way to kind of realign that back and just make sure you're not going to kind of feel anything the next day. Just make sure everything gets all realigned and is ready to go. So that is it for the cool down. Again, important thing is just make sure you're doing even reps on both sides and that you're really stretching out the muscles that we targeted. So this had a lot of core stretching in it because we really targeted those core muscles. So for a big finale here, we're just gonna go ahead and talk about all the things that we went over, give you guys a good baseline conclusion of everything. So we're all just gonna kind of pitch in here over what we talked about. So main things I talked about for you guys was the developmental activities, the cool down. Again, the cool down, modify it as you need it. Developmental activities, have fun with it, modify it as you need it. Partial curl up tests, Morgan went ahead and demonstrated that for you guys.
Yeah, just follow the, take the tape, lay it down, follow which age group you belong in. Obviously, as high schoolers, you're going to be under 45, so you want to get that 12 centimeter apart tape lines, and then lay down with your legs at a 140-degree angle and your fingers on the first line of tape, and hit that metronome with the first beat, go to the second line of tape, and then with the second beat, go back to the first line of tape. Obviously repeating, working your ab muscles, focusing on them, making sure you're getting the right workout in, and completing 75 or until you can no longer continue. We went over how to do the cool up, cool down, or warm up, cool down, and we also did the populations. Jeff and I talked about those. So who can is just anyone that, doesn't matter the age, obviously follow those recommended spacing for the tape depending on your age, but if you're free of injury and feel confident and want to give it a try, definitely go for it. If you're hurt or hurting, maybe refrain from doing it and do a different form of ab workout. And then we also went over the pros and cons of the test. Exactly that.
So I talked about the pros and cons of the test. I also talked about the normative values comparatively, so you can kind of measure yourself up. We went through the 20 to 29-year-olds because that's kind of more relatable to us since nobody in our class is over the age of 30. And then we also, me and Jeff went over the equipment that's needed. So we talked about modifications, we talked about the ideal equipment. So you guys should be all ready and set to go to take on this test yourself, compare yourself to what other people can do, and also to perform it safely.
Okay, guys, well, that wraps for our demonstration of the partial curl up. I hope that you guys all have a really clear idea of how to perform this test, as well as some easy as well as fun developmental activities you can do. Target those core muscles. It's our hope that when you perform the test the first time after doing all those developmental activities and getting warmed up, that your numbers went up the second time. Again, Zach and Jeff both and Maddie all went over those normative values, so you have some sort of baseline to compare yourself to. So hopefully this video and demonstration was easy for you guys to follow and you were able to improve your numbers on the partial curl up test. And thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.